Today, I will be talking about a couple of actors that don't get as much recognition as more well-known actors. These actors always put in solid performances, but aren't talked about as much as they should be. That's why today I've compiled a list of the top 5 most underrated actors. Number 5 on my list is Mark Ruffalo. It may of course be a little more questionable to have him on a list like this, when he after all plays Hulk in the Marvel movies, but other than that, I don't think his work has been too much appreciated. In movies like Dark Waters and the Adam Project, I actually think he did quite underrated roles, especially in the later. He had a minor role where he played the father in the movie, and in an otherwise dull movie, it was Mark that outshined his fellow actors, because when you saw how good he was as the father, who they had to go back in time to meet, you really wonder why they didn't write it so he could be in the story more. Because the way he acts on the emotions and the troubled relationship he develops with Ryan Reynolds, it is just simply very good. Those scenes are surely the best scenes in the movie. In the other movie, Dark Waters, Mark does a terrific lead in an intense thriller movie that might remind you of Zodiac. The movie would never have been as good without Mark's presence in the movie, as this lawyer determined to take the big companies down. That role is a role he really shines in. I mean, if you want to see the best role Mark maybe has done in his whole acting career, you should really see this movie. The next on my list is the highly respectable Forrest Whittaker. Currently, he does a very strong lead role in the show Godfather of Harlem as the gangster Bumpy Johnson. I was highly impressed with his acting in the two first seasons. That's why I've been saving the third season, as I really want to have something to look forward to in a time where there aren't a lot of great shows coming out. Otherwise, you also see strong roles from him in How It Ends, Taken Free, and A Dark Truth. Obviously, Taken Free is a very much known role where he plays a police officer who investigates whether Liam Neeson has killed his wife or not. But in the movies How It Ends and A Dark Truth, he puts on performances in a couple of underrated movies. In How It Ends, he plays a rich dad who has to team up with his daughter's boyfriend in a world where there's pure chaos after a huge blackout where all communication goes down. Here, he is very solid, and although the plot might not be great, the performance Whittaker gives here will really entertain you. In A Dark Truth, he plays this sort of rebel leader who gets fooled by the American government. It is really about trust between him and Andy Garcia, and if you see the movie sometimes, you will know that the trust from Whittaker in the role of Francisco Francis can't be earned easily. Anyways, as this man on the run in this movie, he does it really well, and it's an enjoyable performance. The third on my list is John Turturro, which now has a resurgence in his career after playing in Severance as Irving and in The Batman as Falcone. Actually, in the latter movie, I actually felt he was the best actor in the movie, and for me, it was a disappointment that he was not in it more. Because although Pattinson also put something new into the role as Batman, Turturro really outshines him as this cruel father who suddenly tries to intimidate people in the best way possible. Of course, the case may be that this role was not written for him to have a lot of screen time, but I really used this little screen time to really make an impact. Lately, I've also been seeing John Turturro in movies like Rounders, Anger Management, and Miller's Crossing, where he never disappoints and never fails to put in a solid performance that really deserves more credit. In Severance, people finally started to appreciate his talent, but in the movie Miller's Crossing, when he begs for his life, that has simply got to be some of his best acting ever in his career. The second most underrated actor in my eyes is Willem Dafoe. Last year, you saw him as maybe the best Green Goblin ever made in the Spider-Man universe. The way he channels evil in the character and also really manages to combine it with manipulative tendencies in his personality is simply a work of art. He also does it quite well in the strange movie The Northman as this crazy character Heimir the Fool. The way he channels the crazy to the point it almost becomes psychopathic is simply brilliant. In a movie last year called Dead for a Dollar, which was a western movie they didn't really make right, Willem Dafoe was the one character who really stood out in the role as Joe Cribbins, who had a beef with the Christopher Waltz character in the movie. But as most of the story was between the black man and the girl, he didn't have a lot of screen time. But once again, much like in The Northman, he channeled the screen time He had and made a very solid performance, even in a movie that really didn't hit the mark for many reasons. First place on my list goes to John Cusack, which is an actor that I have really enjoyed watching lately. For me, he is simply so underrated because he is able to do different roles and come out with a solid performance every single time. It does not really matter whether he is a poet, a serial killer, or a writer venture into room 1804. John Cusack has that presence that can make any movie better. For me, it is really hard to choose where you can find his most underrated performance, but safe bets will be movies like The Raven, where he plays a much better version of Edgar Allan Poe than the character in the Netflix movie released this year. In The Frozen Ground, where he lays down a remarkable performance as the serial killer Robert Hansen, and you also, of course, have 1408, which is a movie that is a little more known than the other movies I have mentioned. For me, it is quite surprising that he haven't gotten more recognition for his work, because for me, John Cusack is a highly versatile actor that can do different roles, and no matter what you put him in, he will always deliver solid acting. So that's why to put him at number 1 on my list, it is just a no-brainer.